1. The Freeman Tape. Blue Mountains Footage, 1994. What if one man's video became the most controversial Bigfoot evidence of the modern age? In 1994, former U.S. Forest Service Ranger Paul Freeman claimed he captured footage of a cryptid in the Blue Mountains of Oregon. The tapes show a dark, upright figure moving between trees in low light, glimpsed at maybe 8,100 feet away. Supporters say the movement is too animal-like, the gait too fluid, to be a human in disguise. Skeptics call it shadow, equipment artifact, or hoax. Nonetheless, the Freeman footage became one of the most debated videos in Bigfoot lore. Researchers examined the film frame by frame, comparing stride, shadow, limb proportions, and for years it fueled lectures, documentaries, and cryptid debates. Though no definitive conclusion emerged, that tape re-energized Bigfoot believers in the internet age, giving modern audiences a blurry silhouette that dared them to believe. 2. Memorial Day Crossing Lori Pate Film, 1996, a camping trip. A crossing in the field. A sudden silhouette that vanished. On May 26, 1996, a woman named Lori Pate and her companion were camping near the Washington-Canada border. At dawn, she claimed to film a dark subject sprinting across a clearing, not fully seen but unmistakably upright and massive. That footage later became known as the Memorial Day Bigfoot video. Advocates say the subject's shape, proportions, and motion match what witnesses have long described in Squatch sightings. Skeptics point to lighting, lens artifacts, and misinterpretation. Still, the video gained traction among cryptid communities and was featured in documentaries. Because it's newer than older, grainier lore, the Pate video often serves as a bridge, from folktale to maybe real in the minds of believers. 3. Beckyard's 1999 search, the shape-shifting claim. A cryptid hunter claims the creature can shift shape and vanishes when skeptics enter. John Eric Beckyard, a controversial cryptozoologist, claimed multiple Bigfoot encounters in the 1990s and beyond. In 1999, he brought skeptic Robert Schieffer on a 5-day expedition into a remote forest area. Schieffer, watching closely, reported seeing nothing beyond rocks and shadows. Beckyard, however, later asserted that a Bigfoot appeared the night after Schieffer left, and that the creature was shape-shifting, blending into background vegetation. He interpreted ambiguous leaf formations and tree bark as evidence of a being warping through reality. The media covered the confrontation of skeptic versus believer, and Beckyard's claims stoked debate over the limits of eyewitness testimony, perception, and the very nature of cryptids as possibly interdimensional or elusive. 4. Boone County's white beast sheep squatch in the 1990s. Hook, a creature part sheep, part monster, terrorizes campers in West Virginia. In the 1990s, rumors circulated in West Virginia of a bizarre cryptid known as sheep squatch, a pale, woolly, horned creature part sheep, part horror. Multiple reports emerged. In 1994, a former Navy seaman claimed to see it kneel to drink from a creek before bounding away. 2 children in Boone County later said they saw a 6-foot whitish beast that fled and broke sapling limbs. In 1995, a couple driving late at night reportedly stopped to view a large white creature with horns in a ditch. They claimed it leapt forward and scratched their car before retreating. The scratch marks were visible. In 1999, campers claimed the creature lunged out from darkness, making snorting noises, chasing them down the trail until they escaped to safety. Newspapers and local presses covered these reports in small columns, adding urgency and fear to rural West Virginia nights. The sheep squatch legend, though fringe, shows how even in the recent past, cryptid belief adapts to local ecologies and folklore. 5. Florida's 1990s skunk ape encounters. The swamp holds smell, sound, and something primate in the shadows. Florida's swamp stories are older than 1990, but the 1990s saw revived interest in the skunk ape, especially when swamp researchers and local enthusiasts collected 4-toed track molds, took witness statements of foul odor, and published photos of blurry, hairy forms in the Everglades. One notable case involved a group exploring a remote backwater. Late at night, they heard guttural howls, branch snaps, and a foul stench rolling through the air. Flashlights caught motion at the tree line, a dark figure dipped behind cypress knees. They followed softly, but lost the creature in undergrowth. The event made local newspaper pages and fueled claims that this cryptid was Florida's version of Bigfoot, smaller, swamp-adapted, odor-intense, and elusive. Researchers visited, set up stakeouts, and cataloged dozens of anecdotal reports from hunters, swampers, and tourists who claimed they felt watched. 6. Pacific Northwest Roar 1997 Night Howls. Hook, a forest echoed with inhuman roars, and no one knew what creature answered. In the late 1990s, cryptid hotlines lit up in the Pacific Northwest. In one reported case, near a remote logging road, local residents claimed that a series of loud, guttural howls rang out at midnight. Some drivers on the road later told newspapers they heard a scream, something between a human's and a beast's. Others said they saw a dark shape crossing the road. The tracks found the next morning measured 15-17 inches with deep toes pressed into mud. Investigators canvassed logging camps, interviewed eyewitnesses, looked for camera evidence, but none conclusive was found. The story headlined small regional papers and police logs as "Mysterious Night Roars Frighten Campers." That sequence of howls remains one of the more unsettling cryptid episodes of the 90s timber country. 7. Minnesota's 1998 Bigfoot shadow hook. A flash, a shadow, and a fear that something was watching. In 1998, a Minnesota camper reported a strange event near the Boundary Waters. After nightfall, he stepped out of his tent to fetch water and glimpsed something massive, moving at the edge of it. his flashlight's beam. It walked upright, its arms swinging low, the hair thick and dark. He froze. The subject paused, then disappeared into dense forest. No prints were found the next morning, but droppings, large and odoriferous, were found near the water's edge. The local paper gave it a small story titled, "Giant Shadow Seen Near Campsite." That sighting, though brief, strengthened belief among region's cryptid circles that Bigfoot, or a similar creature, might stalk the boundary edges of known wilderness in the lower 48. 8. Ontario's 1995 Mooseback's mystery Canadian trappers name a shadow they can't explain, and the tabloids pounce. In 1995, in remote Ontario bush country near Lake Temagami, some logging trappers reported seeing a massive, upright creature they dubbed Moosebacks. The name comes from its massive hump, broad back, and moose-like breadth. One trapper claimed he spied the figure through a misty clearing at dawn, dark outline towering over spruces. He watched it step across a bog, leaving huge footprints splayed at 14-16 inches. The incident was picked up by regional Canadian newspapers who ran speculative headlines. Forest Juntin Temagami Woods. Skeptics argued misidentification, but the reports gained traction, especially among wilderness workers who claimed similar glimpses over following months. The Mooseback's legend remains alive in northern cryptid folklore. 9. Vancouver Island light creature, 1993. A beam in the trees. A scream. Then nothing but night silence. In 1993, campers on Vancouver Island, British Columbia, reported seeing a bright beam of light, as though from a flashlight or searchlight, sweeping through forest canopy. Suddenly a shriek pierced the night. Figures claimed they saw a large humanoid shape backlit by the beam, frozen momentarily before vanishing. Investigators later found broken branches and footprints in mud, roughly 16-17-inch prints with deep toe impressions. Local papers titled the report, "Mystery Creature Haunts Island Woods." The combination of light, scream, and silhouette made this sighting particularly haunting, suggesting cryptids might not only lurk in darkness, but sometimes respond to light with shock, then retreat.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you enjoy the video, please stick around until the end and give it a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. It helps YouTube notice my channel more with their algorithm. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing and leaving a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. The Oklahoma wilderness is full of mysteries, and according to some, it's also full of towering, hairy creatures that lurk in the shadows. One of the most vocal believers is Charles Hallmark, a naturopathic doctor from Sulphur, Oklahoma, who has dedicated years to researching Bigfoot. Hallmark is an unlikely figure for the world of cryptid hunting. At 65, he's soft-spoken, level-headed, and not prone to wild exaggerations. He runs a farm where he and his family live, dispensing natural homeopathic remedies, but he is absolutely convinced that Bigfoot exists, and that the creature is alive and thriving in Oklahoma's forests. Hallmark's fascination with Bigfoot began in 1998 when a friend confided in him about an unusual sighting near Doherty. He said, "Would you think I was crazy if I told you something?" I told him no, because I knew he was a rational man. That's when he told me he had seen Bigfoot, and that they were all over Oklahoma. That's when I started paying attention. His newfound curiosity led him to nighttime expeditions deep into the woods. He had grown up hunting and fishing, and over the years he had noticed strange signs. Trails appearing and disappearing, saplings snapped in odd ways. At the time, he hadn't given it much thought, but now he believes those were all signs of Bigfoot. That's when he had an epiphany. If these creatures were truly omnivorous, he reasoned, then they would likely be hanging around Chickasaw National Recreation Area, a sprawling 10,000-acre park near Sulphur. The park is full of garbage. Junior wants a hot dog, takes one bite, and throws it away. That night, Bigfoot comes by and cleans out the trash cans. Hallmark claims to have personally seen Bigfoot 8 times and knows many others who have had encounters. According to him, the creatures are 12 feet tall, resembling great apes but prettier, closer to man. They're not tremendously bad looking. Their arms and legs are longer than a human's, and their muscles are much stronger. And according to Hallmark, they're just as curious about us as we are about them. One time in March 2002, we were in the park near a swimming hole. There was a father and his 2 boys riding bikes. It was getting dark, and a friend of mine went to cross the bridge. He came face to face with one of them. The creature was so engrossed in watching the kids ride their bikes that it didn't even notice my friend until he was just a few feet away. Then, it took off immediately. Hallmark estimates there are at least 300 to 400 Bigfoot creatures in Oklahoma. These things seem to like being around people. What I want to do is gather evidence to prove to the world that they are alive and widespread. Of course, not everyone shares Hallmark's conviction. Chickasaw National Recreation Area managers say they found no evidence of Bigfoot. We're aware of Mr. Hallmark's claims, but we're not aware of any proof or evidence they've been sighted in the park. So, I guess that just adds to the mystery, doesn't it? Steve Burrow, a park resource manager, is more skeptical. As a biologist, you have to keep an open mind, but I've never had anyone call me up and say, "Get over here, there's a Bigfoot running around." Until one falls onto my desk or the back of my truck, I won't believe it. Burrow adds that if Bigfoot were real and residing in the park, it would be considered protected wildlife. So remember, it's not okay to harass the wildlife by playing recorded Bigfoot calls at 5 in the morning. That just irritates the campers and the animals that are here. But is it really possible that something unknown to science could be hiding in these woods? In 2003, Dr. Jeff Kelly, a professor at the University of Oklahoma and a member of the Oklahoma Biological Survey, conducted a year-long inventory of all the vertebrates in Chickasaw National Recreation Area. The study was exhaustive, involving remote cameras, mammal traps, tracking stations, scent posts, nocturnal searches, and audio recording devices. The most exciting discovery? A marsh rice rat, which was a new county record. But Bigfoot? Not a trace. Even Dr. Jeff Meldrum, a respected professor of anatomy and anthropology at Idaho State University, remains cautious. He has studied over 200 Bigfoot footprint casts and believes there is enough evidence to warrant further research. But he is skeptical of Hallmark's fingerprint evidence. He sent some to me. I collaborated with a forensics expert in Texas who concluded the prints were indistinguishable from human prints. Of course, we don't know exactly what a Bigfoot's fingerprints would look like. Still, Meldrum believes that some reports could be genuine. When you look at the country's forested areas, especially in the Appalachian Mountains and Deep South, you've got some very rugged, sparsely populated regions. So is it possible? I think so. And one of those rugged, sparsely populated areas is Honobia, Oklahoma, a town that has embraced its Bigfoot legacy. In the tiny town of Honobia, Bigfoot is more than just a legend. It's a local celebrity, Katie Cogburn. We think the Honobia Bigfoot Festival is going to grow into something big. The interest in Bigfoot has really been sparked, and we hope to spark a whole lot more with this festival. Rather than dismiss the legend, the residents of Honobia have turned it into a tourism opportunity, hosting an annual Bigfoot festival featuring food, crafts, storytelling, and even a Bigfoot wedding. Katie Cogburn. We're basically trying to promote the area. This is a beautiful place, and it's a shame more people don't know about it. But Honobia isn't just about folklore. Many locals claim to have seen Bigfoot firsthand. Ronnie Hammer, a 62-year-old native, shares a story passed down by his grandfather. Ronnie Hammer: "My grandpa was a little boy when something showed up at their cabin, looking in the window. They shot it 3 times. It was a hairy, man-like creature weighing 400 pounds. They got scared they might get in trouble for shooting it, so they buried it and moved to Arkansas." Then there's Lavelle Rose, who claims to have found a strange hair sample near her cabin. Lavelle Rose, it smells terrible. Odell, her husband, has hunted these mountains all his life, and he's never, ever heard a sound like the one we heard that night. Honobia's Bigfoot reputation exploded in 2000, when a man named Jim Humphreys claimed his family was terrorized by a group of Bigfoot creatures. The story gained national attention, and since then, researchers from all over the country have descended upon Honobia, hoping for a glimpse of the elusive creature. But despite all the sightings and legends, science remains unconvinced. So does Bigfoot really roam the forests of Oklahoma? The evidence remains inconclusive, yet as long as the stories persist, so too will the hope that something strange, mysterious, and unexplained still lurks in the wilderness. And maybe, just maybe, some mysteries are better left unsolved. And that's the mystery of Bigfoot in Oklahoma, fact or fiction. I'll leave that for you to decide. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps YouTube notice my channel and brings you more awesome content like this. Have you had a Bigfoot encounter or know someone who has? Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your stories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
It was the summer of 1976. A group of college students had rented a cabin on the eastern shore of Lake Tahoe, deep in the pines. The nights were silent, but for one. At around midnight, one of them, Marcy, stepped outside, drawn by a low, distant moan that sounded like wind, but too deep, too urgent. The moon was hidden behind clouds. She froze when the moan was echoed by a rasping grunt, as though something was calling its companion in the shadows. She snapped back indoors, whispering to her friends. Half convinced it was an animal, half afraid it was something else, they decided to explore the edge of the forest just beyond the cabin. A few minutes later, under a broken sliver of moonlight, they saw it. Crouched between two pines at the tree line, massive, broad-shouldered, thick with dark hair, twice as tall as any man. Its head was bowed, arms long, elbows bent. It stood abruptly, an inhuman silhouette against the forest, and with one hideous crack of a branch it sprinted across a clearing, crossing the dirt road toward the lake. In the morning, they found deep footprints in damp sand at the water's edge, barely human, nearly monstrous. Each print was more than 16 inches long, and the ground was shredded, as if some giant had clawed at the shoreline. They reported the sighting to the BFRO, the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, recalling the noises, the shape, the silent, watchful stance before the dash. Though others later reported calls and howls in Tahoe's forests, this one always remained their ghostly memory. So, if you ever walk beside Lake Tahoe at midnight, listen for a low guttural moan, for snapping twigs, and feel the uneasy brush of eyes watching you from the dark pines.
The forest went completely silent. No birds, no wind, nothing. That's when they saw it, 7 feet tall, gliding through the trees, with an alien pale face turned sideways. No human eyes, no hair, just wrong. But that's not the only thing lurking out there. In Virginia, someone spotted a creature the size of a goat perched on a fence, except it had massive black wings that cast shadows over their entire car. Then there's the white beast, big as a hippo, that ran silently across a field like a shadow. And the orangutan-lemur hybrid with glowing eyes that vanished the moment it realized it was being watched. These aren't just stories. Real people found claw marks in the soil, felt the ground tremble, heard breathing in empty rooms. The question is, Yuma, what's really out there in the darkness?
The creature shown has an unsettling, almost haunting look, with facial features eerily reminiscent of a primate, and fur so realistic it seems almost tangible. But it's the creature's eyes that stand out most, glinting with an intelligent, almost human-like awareness. What's fueling the video's popularity is how unusually close and clear the footage is, which makes it all the more compelling. What immediately stands out is its scale. While it's difficult to judge exact height without a clear reference, it seems proportionally large compared to the surrounding brush and tree trunks. The shoulders are broad, the arms hang low, and the head sits almost sunken into the torso, all of which are common traits described in eyewitness Bigfoot reports. The leafless birch trees and tall grass offer no signs of staging. Importantly, the figure is not blurry in a way that suggests motion blur or digital manipulation. This lack of overproduction actually adds a sense of authenticity. There are areas, particularly around the thighs and rump, where the hair is patchy or missing. This could suggest mange, seasonal shedding, or even age-related fur loss, a trait more commonly observed in known mammals, particularly bears. However, what stands out is the creature's posture. It's walking on all fours, but the limb structure and length, especially of the back legs, give it an oddly humanoid proportion. The spine is relatively flat, not arched like that of most quadrupeds, and the leg extension looks longer than what you'd expect from a typical black bear. A chilling new trail camera video has recently gone viral after being posted on TikTok by the user Dead Cinema on June 9th, 2025. Allegedly filmed in Alaska, the clip is causing a stir online. Watch as this elusive creature stares directly at the camera, raising more questions than it answers. Though the exact filming location remains unknown, it's said to have been captured deep in a forested area. While walking his dogs through the rugged eastern Sierras, Bill was stunned to catch a rare, close-up glimpse of what appeared to be Bigfoot lurking just nearby, an encounter that left him questioning everything he thought he knew about the mysterious creature. So, the big question remains, is this gripping trail cam footage a breakthrough in cryptid evidence, or simply the latest high-tech hoax? Skeptics, however, argue it may just be a well-crafted product of CGI or AI rather than a real-life creature, a possibility that's not far-fetched in today's digital age. So, the big question remains, is this gripping trail cam footage a breakthrough in cryptid evidence, or simply the latest high-tech hoax? Deep in the swampy forests of northwest Florida's Panhandle, a man named Freddie stumbled upon a strange set of footprints. They weren't scattered or wandering. Curious, Freddie took some photos and sent them to the Rocky Mountain Sasquatch organization, unsure if what he'd found was even worth reporting. When the RMSO team examined the images closely, they spotted something familiar.
It goes all the way up the bank. And some of these strides are 4 foot long, Jason. Just think there's no slide marks.
Skeptics might argue this is a person in a dark outfit, possibly a hunter or hiker, but there are counterpoints to that. Second, there's no visible gear, backpack, or headwear that you'd expect on a person trekking in such cold conditions. Overall, this frame feels less like a hoax and more like a genuine capture of something out of the ordinary, whether it's an unknown animal, a local legend in the flesh, or something we haven't classified yet. While navigating a rocky pass, he caught sight of something tall, cloaked in dark brown fur, lurking silently just beyond the boulders. It watched him motionlessly, then vanished the moment their eyes met. Instead of fleeing, the hiker made a daring choice. He went back. When he returned to the spot, there was no sign of the creature or footprints, only a bundle of straw tucked away behind the rocks. Right before Bill pans away, the fast-moving figure stops in the thick trees and seems to stay there, watching Bill and the dogs. Not only does this figure have a dome-shaped head, but its movement is way too smooth for a person. No natural bounce in its stride. Once it realized it had been seen, the creature turned and lumbered back into the forest, disappearing from view. The video captures both moments, the creature standing frozen in its slow retreat. With surprising clarity, it's easily one of the more convincing Bigfoot clips out there.